Alright fellas, what's going on? Denonu here, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And this is the 𝐷𝐤𝐤𝐤𝐿 podcast. Podcast where I talk about my opinions on gaming and other related topics such as comics, movies, TV shows, anything I really want to. And I'm just getting my thoughts and opinions out there. So this one may be a little bit short. I'm coming back to it, bringing it back from the depths of January, where I just did, you know, kind of like an experiment, you know, type thing with the episode 1. So, with this one here, it's going to be a little bit shorter. I'm assuming I'm going to ramble on about tons of things. So, I'm only really going to talk about maybe 3 to 5 things, since there hasn't really been a lot of news this week, outside of, United's troubles and other airline troubles and things like that, but there hasn't really been a lot of ongoing gaming related stuff to talk about. So first things first, we're going to take it back to a few years ago and actually talk about Call of Duty in a commentary video. So the new Call of Duty is set to be World War II, and I just don't know how I feel about that. Like, I want it to be a little bit more boots on the ground, as it were. But I'm somebody who, I'm done with World War II. You know, I'm done with World War I. You know, I remember back before COD 4 came out, when like for the most part, every major FPS, like for those of you who weren't around playing FPS games back in the day, well, I'm not gonna say back in the day, but you know, a few years ago, before COD, you know, let's say COD 4 kicked off the modern resurgence of modern FPS games, everything was World War II games. Sci-fi had a brief period in there, but for the most part, every shooter game was a World War I game or a World War II game or a back in the day type thing. That's what everybody did. Hell, the reason why Call of Duty is around probably because of Medal of Honor. That was the game that really kicked it off back in the early thousands. And for them to go back to that, I know a lot of people are wanting boots on the ground, but just me personally, I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. However, the sci-fi, you know, boost jumping, I'm not feeling that either. You know, all the stuff in the new CODs. Honestly, what I think Call of Duty is missing is, and I've been saying it for years, you can go back and watch any of my older Call of Duty videos, is Call of Duty is they're in a similar place where Halo was. Like Halo years ago, before Halo Reach came out, you had Halo 3, you had ODST, which was like a spin-off expansion pack of Halo 3, and then you had Halo Reach. When they made Halo Reach, that kind of split their community, where you had people who liked Halo 3 and the people who loved Reach. Mostly newer fans who jumped on with Reach versus the older Halo games. And in Call of Duty, I think by their, how would I want to describe it? By their audience being so fragmented, because of their release schedule, it's kind of scattering everything. Everybody likes their particular COD game, whether that's MW2, Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, you know, Advanced Warfare. And it kind of doesn't group anybody together. They're in a different position because since their game is easy to play, they have the audience and they have the brand name to, no matter what they put out, no, not put out, but no matter what they put out, they're going to sell copies. That's just the way it is. Now, whether they beat their own record as the years go on, that's something that they, you know, have to deal with. But they're going to make money no matter what they put out. Honestly, I think this is just them listening to fan feedback and kind of not understanding their audience. They understand their audience to a degree, meaning they know that they're casual players. They know they want the run and gun, the small maps, that kind of sort of thing. But I think they're misunderstanding when it comes to why their franchise is getting negative feedback. And in their mind, they're thinking, oh, boots on the ground. That means they want to go back to older stuff. It's not necessarily older stuff. And I've been saying this for a while now. It's the tactical feel of a game. And I'm not saying take Call of Duty and make it into Rainbow Six. That's not what I mean by when I say tactical. What I mean is the people who love military FPS games are the same people who love guns, warfare, modern day combat. They're the people who go out there and let's say they got guns and, you know, like they shoot guns in their backyards or at the range, or teenagers who love that stuff growing up into adults, and kids who just like to play anything popular because they're not allowed to play it. You know, that's your main audience. It's not people who like to play sci-fi. People, let's say like myself, who like Halo and like sci-fi versus, you know, normally it's like you either like one or the other. That's just the way people are. And for them to keep going years and years of, oh, let's make, you know, boost jumping, exoskeletons, far into the future, you know, space colonist invasions and stuff. It's just like, no, that's sci-fi. You're getting away from your element. Like, to me, Call of Duty has been the most popular for Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3. Those are the only games where I could say Call of Duty. That's when people was like living and breathing with COD. After that, you had Black Ops 1 and 2. They were okay, you know, but as you know, the hold that the game had on people started to die off after that. And it's just people just stopped playing it. You have people, there's been people I've been watching on YouTube for years, like going back like maybe 6, 7, 8 years. And they just like don't play the game no more. Not because their family life or their personal life don't allow them to do it. They just fell out of favor with the game. And it's the same thing with Halo. Like I have a best friend who he lived and breathed Halo 3. But that was like one of the only games he played. But after they kept making the changes and each game got away from what he liked out of the franchise, he just stopped playing it. And that's just, it's sad, but I mean, that's the reality of, you know, that's the reality of us gamers. I mean, when a company does something you don't like for instance, me, I particularly don't like, you know, the newer Call of Duties. I played, I think the last one I played was what, Black Ops 3, I think it was Black Ops 3. They make so damn many of them. But I didn't play the newest one, the one with the Game of Thrones guy. I think it's the newest. In Infinite Warfare, the one with space colonization. Didn't touch it. I have the game, only because somebody got it for me, but never installed it on my PlayStation 4. And I think it's just one of those things where going back to World War II, that's not going to fix that problem. That's just going to make new problems. Yeah, it's going to be boots. It's probably as boots on the ground as you can get. But at the end of the day, it's you have to remove a lot of the game too. If normally, typically, unless they pull like a Battlefield 1, where they start making up guns to throw in there, a lot of the modern day features that come with the modern Call of Duty game you can't have. Like you can have the whole create a character system. Like if they wanted to keep that, they could add that in there, change around your different gear, all that stuff. But what people come to expect out of the weapons, like putting scopes on, attachments, modifications to their guns, all of that kind of sort of stuff that people min-max with in a Call of Duty game, you can't do in a World War II setting because they didn't have that. You had the gun, the magazine, you had a few experimental things here and there, but for the most part, everybody was rocking, you know, similar shit. That's just the way it was. And they made a lot of changes to that creator class system as the games went on. And certain items and mods and scopes and things allowed them to do that, where you could have different attachments and modifications and all that kind of sort of stuff. Like prime example, like just to say scopes. They didn't really use scopes like that in World War I and 2. Everything was for the most part iron sights. I mean, unless you had like a marksman rifle, a sniper rifle, or something like that that was designed to shoot long range like that, you didn't have a scope on it. That's just the way it was. So what happens to all of those gamers who like, you know, like me, like prime example, I love red dot scopes and sniper rifle scopes. That's me. That's just, you know, what I like to, I will throw that on a submachine gun if I want, you know? there's probably thousands of people out there who are just like me that like to mess around with those various attachments. And unless this, unless just say that they maybe, unless they say fuck it and just be like, you know what, it's in multiplayer, we're not trying to be realistic, whatever, it's just in there to be in there, then then they could do that and then, carry that on and then make it work. But if they try to make it somewhat realistic, kind of like how Battlefield 1 did things, then it's I'm not saying it has to be realistic, but it's just if they want to stick to the time period like they want, then they can't do certain things, and that's that's just my thought on it. So, I mean, they can make it work, but it's just one of those things where we're just gonna have to wait and see until the game comes out. And I just don't know if it's gonna have the same popularity as the older COD games. It seems like as the years go on and the games go on, COD is, they're churning their fan base, so to speak. A lot of the older people who like it are either dying out from the game or changing how they think about the game, and a lot of newer, younger people are coming in, so maybe they won't have those problems. Who knows? But that's just my my opinion on it, and it's really a problem because I don't see. It's one of those things where as a game developer or a company, you have to think about, because you're putting out a product, and it's one of those things that may not have a correct answer. Because like, even if they didn't go back and try to remake, let's say remake like a modern FPS game, because they can't just keep remaking older COD games. They can't just keep doing that shit. So if they try to recapture the magic with like make another modern COD, I mean, even if they did that, they're going to be some people who don't like that. So it's going to be one of those things where it's like, well, you got to do it one way and then, take the loss or take the hit, and you got to do it the other way, and you're still going to take a hit. So it's, it's one of those situations where I'm glad I'm not the person making the video game, but anyway, next topic here, Mass Effect. And I've been wanting to talk about Mass Effect for a minute, and, only because I've been playing it so much. Mass Effect is life right now with me with Andromeda. And just to give out my first, well, maybe first or second opinions about the game so far, it's cool, but it feels incredibly generic. I mean, it's sad. Like this game feels like, it's hard to describe. When I'm trying to put my thoughts into words, and it's hard to do. Because with Mass Effect, it's one of those franchises to me. I know a lot of people may not, love the franchise like that, but for me, Mass Effect is my favorite gaming franchise of last gen. It was that good, as far as not because of the games or like, oh, it's the greatest game ever, but because I think of the impact that it had and what they at least tried to do with carry over in your progress from one game to the other. So you have to look at the franchise as a whole, not as an individual game. And everybody's experience feels different. Like I could play through the game and then you could play through the game, and our outlook on the franchise would be different because we played the game a different kind of way, But with Andromeda, I know I said it before. When I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, it feels like this game, and I know the behind the scenes stuff for it. It's just, it wasn't made by their A team. It was made by their B team. And a few of the writers left, so they didn't have, the greatest writers there. Probably they didn't have the same people. But the storyline and just the theme of what they chose to go with, this feels like, the developers tried to recreate Mass Effect 1, but take elements from the second and third game to make the gameplay better, and to build on it with their own changes and things like that. But that's what this game feels like. It feels like they tried to go with Mass Effect 1 because you got like the Mako driving around, or the, what do they call the vehicle in Andromeda? The Nomad. You got the Nomad driving all around. You got those kind of segments. You have a lot of the feel about the game feels a lot like Mass Effect 1. But the problem with all of that is, it's like you have a game. It's like somebody comes out with like a badass theme, or like a piece of music, or a great looking piece of art, right? And then you have somebody else who's like, you know what, I'm gonna mass produce that copy, and they make copies of it and sell it, right? Those copies aren't gonna be as good as the original, and that's how I feel Mass Effect Andromeda is. It's like this game was made by a separate group of people who looked at part 1 and 2 and was like, okay, what sold that game? And then they took those ideas and made a game around it, and then put their own little like trimmings on it. That's what it feels like. The gameplay, like I said, is incredibly, outside of, let's say, how they made the changes to the combat a little bit and the combat system, storyline, where do I start? I'm gonna save that for the end. But character animations, garbage. Glitches, bugs, garbage. You know, why they released the game now, who knows? This game should have been, you know, had like another 6 months to, you know, a year, you know, before release, to iron out all those problems. The facial expressions and the art, and the character designs and all of that, they all look ugly. I'm not somebody who plays games for pretty characters, at least when it comes to like male characters in games. I'm not somebody who looks at that kind of sort of stuff. You know, I really don't care. But it's just, I want to make my character look the way I want to look, and I jumped in Character Creator and it was sad. You know, like I had to settle. You know, I don't settle. But I had to settle. I mean, it feels slim. It's like in today's day and age, all of the problems that Mass Effect Andromeda had, they should not have had them. I mean, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I know every game, you know, isn't perfect. I'm not saying that it has to be perfect, but a lot of these problems shouldn't be there with, you know, current gen consoles and or PC, because I'm playing the game on PC, so I don't even know how the console version looks. I'm guessing it looks, you know, even worse and even more glitches because the consoles aren't as strong as PC. But it's just one of those things where it's just, the game just feels like, and it feels like a shadow of its former self. Like, at least, like I could say, at least with the older Mass Effect games, like the story, whether you liked it or hated it, it was there. You know, the music was on point, the art design was on point. I remember when Mass Effect came out, everybody was comparing it to like Halo a little bit when it came out and things like that. I remember even like, I think I still got the Game Informer magazine that had Mass Effect on the cover. Like, I remember when I first read the, you know, like the preview for Mass Effect, you know, Mass Effect 1. It's just one of those franchises to me where I look at it and it's like, how could you come out with this bullshit? You know? And like, everything about the game is generic. Like, even the story is like damn near non-existent. Like, outside of, oh, here's this new galaxy that we're stuck in, we have to survive.
I am making progress, but the Angara
I'm like 15, 20 hours into the game. I'm on like about to hit the third main story planet quest, whatever you want to call it. And like, I don't know what the bad guys are up to. I don't even know why I'm fighting them. It's just one of those things like, oh, here's these bad guys. They're just around the galaxy doing stuff, and we gotta colonize these planets, and they're on the planet, so we gotta stop them. That's it. It feels like bullshit. Like, there's nothing attaching me to this game outside of myself having fun playing the game because I like Mass Effect. There's nothing there. The characters, outside of maybe 2, maybe Vetra. Vetra's on point with me, so she's pretty cool. Vetra and maybe PB, the Asari, the quirky Asari chick. Outside of everybody else, don't like nobody in the game. That's playable characters between female writer and male writer, or your character's dumb as shit. I feel like I'm 15 playing him, with given how the writing works, because the writing is such garbage in the game. I don't know. I'm getting off track. Because I'll rant on about Mass Effect for like the next hour, and I'm pretty sure you guys don't want to hear it. But it's just one of those things where I know they could have did better. And I think what they should have did as the game developers, and maybe it was outside of their hands. I mean, I'm gonna knock them because this is the product that they put out, you know, that they came out with. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I gotta give my opinion on it. You know, I mean, if they didn't want to hear the backlash, or, you know, hear the backlash from people, they shouldn't put out, you know, shouldn't put the game out in that current state, but they did. So it's just, maybe I'm jumping down their throat too much. Maybe it was EA's fault. Maybe EA was like, yo, look, we got to get this game out. It's been like, what, 4 or 5 years since part 3. We got to come out with a new Mass Effect game. And maybe they gave them a timetable, and maybe they just couldn't perform under that timetable. I mean, it could be that too. I mean, that's business. I mean, they got to do what they got to do. But I think it's one of those things where EA should have been like, you know what? This is Mass Effect. This is like one of our biggest franchises. You think they would have learned the lesson with Inquisition, because this feels the same exact way. I swear, BioWare is one of those companies where I love them for what they do, but they learn something from every game, from one to the next, and then they take those same things and move them over into another franchise that they have. It's the same exact thing. This game feels like, because Inquisition was like that too. Inquisition, they went from Dragon Age 2 to a streamlined local experience, whatever, in this one town area, to like, oh, big open world, tons of quests, but generic main character. You know, it was less, the story was still there, but it was less character driven, whereas like part 2 was character driven and part 1 was character driven. So Mass Effect, same exact way. As soon as Mass Effect went linear with part 2, you know, less RPG, more action, they moved that right on the Dragon Age. And with this, with Andromeda, it feels like they took the lessons that they learned with Inquisition, moved them right on into this. So it's just, I don't understand why they don't make the franchises separate as far as what they have to offer, you know. But maybe it's just, maybe they're trying to capitalize on like a particular formula and trying to appease two different crowds. Kind of like how Marvel does their movies, or Disney rather than Marvel. It's not really Marvel's way, but Disney's way. But you try to appeal to families because that's where you get the most money from. That's why most of Marvel's movies are kind of comedic and entertaining and not dark and broody and all that shit, because you'll make less money. That's just the way it is. But whereas BioWare, it feels like maybe they're trying different things in both franchises, because you have one side of your gaming audience that likes medieval stuff and the other one that likes sci-fi. So it's like two different games with a different theme, you know, but it's like the same game, different theme, you know. But it just pisses me off as a hardcore fan of Mass Effect to play this game, and it's just like, I know what it could be. I know what it wants to be. And it's like, why aren't you that? Even if, like, I would rather have, you know, give me the same experience from Mass Effect 3. Screw all of your new shit. Screw all of your older, you know, your changes and stuff that you made in the game. Just give me that. I mean, I'd rather replay another storyline with the older characters, even if it was like, you know, Shepard died at the end of part 3. So even if it was just about his team, you know, and had, you know, introduce a new main character or a new captain of the Normandy, I'd rather have that than have this. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, there's nothing connecting me to this game at all, you know. And for me, story is like the biggest thing on my plate that I love to sink my teeth into. Like, a game has to have a good story with me. Either it has to have good story, or I have to really like your gameplay. And for me, like, it's like I said, it's you have to have story, and this game just doesn't have it. I feel the gameplay is decent. It's a good foundation, but the story's not there. The writing isn't there. So half the time, what story it does have, I'm listening to characters bicker back and forth. It's just like, random kid jokes and all that kind of sort of stuff, and it's just like it's like grating nails on like a chalkboard, YouTube. Well, when I hear certain stuff, and I'm not even somebody who like is super into like dialogue and all that kind of sort of stuff. Like I like intelligent dialogue, but I'm not like somebody who nitpicks at every little word in the lore and all that. I'm not that kind of person. But like, you have to have something there to, you know, for me to understand your game. Like I said, I'm like 20 hours in, and the main bad guys are just baby-faced aliens that I don't understand their plot so far in the game. Why are they attacking everything? Don't know. Why, you know, what is the Scourge? This thing that we hit in the first 5 minutes of the game? Don't know. It feels like the theme behind this game, where like Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3, the theme of the games were, let's say, survival. The ends justify the means. Saving the galaxy, you know, typical video game stuff, right? And this, it just feels like the theme is like exploration. And that's it. You know, like, it's cool and all, but like, there's no, I was waiting for like something to drop off, like the cat who are the main bad guys in the game. I was waiting for them to pop off with something like, oh, they're gonna find out, oh, they know where our ship is, they're gonna destroy it, or something is gonna institute this galactic change that truly makes them the bad guy, you know. But so far it's not there. And as far as the intelligent, fun story missions or side missions that the old Mass Effect games had, there's nothing like that in the new one. So everything just feels bland and generic when I play it. The combat is fun, but outside of that, it's just more running around and exploring. And it seems like they followed, like, beat for beat, the same story elements of like Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 that kind of like you think they would have changed up. Like, you have a Turian on your team, you have an Asari on your team, you have a Krogan on your team. It's just like those main things. It's like, okay, I know that's Mass Effect, don't get me wrong, from 1, 2, and 3. But you would have think that, okay, this is a new galaxy, let's introduce new alien races. Don't put the same races in the game, or don't make, you know, change it up. You know, this, if you're gonna make a new trilogy of games, then make a new trilogy of games. Don't make a wannabe rehash of 1, 2, and 3. But that's what I feel, you know, that's what I feel like, because, you know, I think this is people looking at what sold 1, 2, and 3 and then decided to make a part 4. And that's, you know, that's why I think that they looked at what sold that and tried to copy the same thing, but put a different spin on it. And, you know, cause everything is like beat for beat. But the problem is, by them making copies of like you know, something that's original, it's not original. So it's not the same. It feels generic. It feels boring. So, or at least to me it does. And I'm guessing to the majority of the gaming audience, it does, you know, does as well, because outside of the game has been getting more attention because of its bugs and problems than because of how great the game is. And that's a problem. I know any news is good news, is what they always say, but still, it's one of those things where you want the game to be bigger and better because you want the game to, you know, succeed. You want it to sell money and all that. And they're just taking nothing but L's like United right now. So I don't know. It is what it is. All right, next topic. We're going to be working on the last 3 here. We're going to be talking about movies. And first one out the gate, Ghost in the Shell. Where do I start? Seen the movie probably about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. And I took my time. I had to, you know, to boil the water with my thoughts after watching the movie. Because being somebody who's a huge Ghost in the Shell fan, I've been a fan ever since I seen the first anime back in the mid-90s. It's just one of those things where I can understand what we were trying to do. But it's just, I think that they failed in the story department. And I'll get into that in a second. I'm not going to say this is a shitty movie. It's not. I've seen far worse. It's not that the people who made it didn't care about the property. I've seen that done too. That's not this. They definitely did care. You can tell that certain scenes from the live action movie were beat for beat with the anime, or certain scenes were right out of Standalone Complex as well. And so you definitely can tell that they care about the product, so to speak. You know, they truly wanted to do what they do, and they wanted to make a Ghost in the Shell live action movie. I think the problem was, I don't think the studios didn't want to do it. First red flag was, I think when I was watching it, like 2 seconds in, they was having like the companies who make the movies logos be on the screen, and I saw like an Asian company logo up here, and I was like, oh, we don't have that. We don't do that over here in America. You know, like normally it's either stuff that we have or like European, you know, companies, things like that, right? But for the most part, it's American companies. So when I seen that, you normally see that in like foreign movies, because foreign movies do that a lot. Where like you have a product, let's say like if France made a movie, you know, you would see something like that, or they made an anime movie, like kind of like how prime example, Samuel L. Jackson was in a movie called 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐞 a few years ago. That was a movie that was based on an anime slash hentai, depending on which version you saw. And for those of you who don't know, hentais are like anime porn, so to speak. And he was in something like that, where it was like, you know, they'll normally take like an American actor who wants to do a foreign movie, but the people who make the movie are like, and you know, they're from another country, they're like French or whatever country they're from, and they produce the movie over there, and it's normally, the budgets are smaller over there, things like that. So that's where you normally see those kind of sort of things. But for here in Ghost in the Shell, so when I seen that logo, I was like, okay, so that means, was the movie co-financed by an Asian company? And if that's the case, if it was, because otherwise, why would their logo be there, you know? So I'm guessing that's the case. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was my first initial thought. You know, I kind of did the rock eyebrow when I seen it. I was like, wait a minute, what? So if they co-financed it, that means they couldn't get financing over here. That means no major studio wanted to do it. And so the budget was like probably extremely small for a movie of what they were trying to do. And I don't know how big their budget was. I don't think they made their money back. The movie's been getting slammed with mixed review scores and stuff since it came out. So, and even when I went to see it, that was like the second week it came out, maybe third week it came out. I think it was the third, like second or third weekend. And then we was like, me and my friend were like the 1 out of 7 people in the theater. And it was on like a Friday night, so I'm like, oh, this ain't good. That's when I knew the movie was like, I mean, I know Ghost in the Shell is popular, but like, I'm like, come on, shouldn't it be a bunch of anime fans or something? But no, was not the case. So, and even when I was seeing it, like, the movie's not bad. The movie is, like I said, certain scenes are great. It's just the problem with the movie is, I think the story that they chose to go with as far as the movie, like the main plot of the movie, I think it was shitty. It was shitty, and they should not have done it. Outside of that, I think it was done okay. I think the actors who were in the movie were on point. I forget the guy's name, but the one Japanese guy who played ● I love him in most of his stuff that he does over there. He was great for the role. I think the guy who played Bato, I didn't like him at first, but by about a halfway point in the movie, I'm like, okay, he was a good pick. Scarlett Johansson being the Major, I'm hit or miss on it. Before I seen the movie, I would have told you I didn't like her as a character, or I didn't like her as the Major. But after seeing seeing her in the movie, it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. She was like, ironically, she was robotic as hell in the movie. But, you know, that plays into the Major's character, so I didn't mind it all that much. The storyline that they chose to go with, the company creating weapons, and she was the first, you know, full-body cyborg and all of that. Her being a kidnapped Japanese runaway... It's just, that whole plot line should have been stripped. Like, by them focusing the movie on her and having a shitty plot to, you know, on top of that, it puts all of the attention on her. So that means you get no attention from for nobody else. Like, I wish they'd have did it like standalone complex. And after seeing like after seeing the movie, that was the first thing that's the one major thing I wish they'd have changed. I wish they'd have scrapped the whole movie. You can still have the same iconic beats in there, here or there, you know what I'm saying? But I think that they should have just scrapped the whole thing, the major plot, and just did it like an episode of Standalone Complex. Right when the movie starts, jump you in. And you don't have to have like, oh, this is the Major's backstory. She's this, she's that. No, don't do nothing like that. Just jump you right on in as like this was like a team-based buddy cop movie. Like, here is her team of people. They're Section 9. Here's what they do. You know, and have her be the team or the team leader. And as the movie progresses through whatever storyline you choose to pick. I mean, I would have loved it if they did like The Laughing Man or something like that. The tie-in modern day feelings about hacking and everything like that, and all of that kind of sort of stuff. Because I think the other half of this movie is stuff that they probably cut out, because the original Ghost in the Shell anime, it was a lot of intellectual material. I'm gonna say it was talking about artificial intelligences. What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be, you know, self-aware? You had a lot of that going on, and I'm assuming the reason why they cut all of that out of the movie is because maybe those are topics that aren't for the average casual moviegoer. You know, they were just looking at that and be completely, you know, stupefied, if I had to pick a disturbed term. So that's probably why they cut all of that out and just kind of made it about the Major specifically. But I think that they could have improved that if they did it, let's say, more about, let's say, like something like hacking, where even if you don't know how hacking is in real life, you know what the idea of it is. Everybody had their emails broken into, their cell phones broken into. Hacking is so prevalent in modern day media that people can understand what you're talking about. So that's why I think if they'd have chose something like The Laughing Man or something where like this badass hacker was going around just hacking into stuff, and they couldn't stop him, and he was trying to put out like some type of underground message against the establishment, so to speak, and somehow, you know, make it like a philosophical debate between whether that's right or wrong, or if the results of him doing that was right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? They could have spun it into that, and then had the movie be about the team trying to stop him, or let's say bringing somebody else, or make, you know, they could change up the end game, but make it a team-based movie. And as the movie progresses on, you learn about each member of her, you know, of her team. You learn about the Major, Bateau, Togusa, the sniper guy. Hell, even have like a 𝐏𝐢𝐤𝐞 in there, just, you know, just as like a one shot. Have like a pit scene or whatever where they're walking to like a car or something. Have like a talking 𝐏𝐢𝐤𝐞, because that was something else that was missing. You know, you can even, you know, make up the storyline like, oh, this is just somebody's attempt to improve their programming or something like that, like a pet project, and have like a talking 𝐏𝐢𝐤𝐞. I think that would have been pretty cool. But I think the movie story would have been better if they'd have went in that direction versus the direction that they went in the, you know, in the movie, because it did make a whole lot of sense. And by them having a lower budget, you kind of saw it in different scenes. Like certain anime scene transitions, like the scene where she beats the guy up when she's wearing thermal optics. I know the original anime, you had long transitions, but you don't need to have those long transitions in film. Like, there are some film transitions in this movie that last for like a minute, 2 minutes of just nothing but like music in the background, or you looking at the sky and things like that. That works for anime because you could be, you know, symbolic with those shots. You know, in a movie, it doesn't really work the same, because the audience is just looking at one scene like, okay, this shit's boring. And I'm not somebody who thinks that way. I have patience. But it's just like somebody, you know, to the mainstream audience, that what you're going for, you could cut out half of those transitions and saved yourself a runtime, or, you know, introduced more footage. And maybe they didn't have enough footage to go around. Maybe they had to stretch those things. I have no idea. But I just think the movie could have been a whole lot better than what it was. And I think because of this, we're probably going to get less anime adaptations in the future. Or at least less studios willing to make an anime adaptation. And as an anime fan, I think that's kind of sad, because I think anime can really break into the mainstream media. Well, it already has to a point, but into movies, kind of like how Marvel did with comic book movies. They just haven't had that great budgeted movie yet to really, you know, knock the ball out of the park with. You know, I think they could do it, and they could make it like that. The problem is fucking Hollywood. I'm just gonna say it. Like, they need to get their shit together. Like, I don't know if it's a bunch of old white guys in Hollywood running things, but it's just like, it's one of those things where they need to get a younger generation of people in there to change up things, because then, you know, people would be more willing to accept different types of movies rather than just rehashing the same reboot movies over and over and over again. And like, outside of comic book movies and probably those weird quirky comedies, like those one good comedy movies that come out like every 2 years, everything else is probably like reboots or rehashes or an older franchise that they're trying to modernize for a newer audience who don't even know what the hell you're talking about, like Ghostbusters. You know, it's like, why would you reboot that for a younger audience when the younger audience don't even know what the hell Ghostbusters is? You know, make a new franchise, have something new for them, have them to latch onto. That's what they should be doing. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on Ghost in the Shell. I liked what they did. I think it could have been far better. But given how the movie is received so far, it's probably gonna just go downhill. The movie isn't bad, but it's not gonna change anybody's minds, and I just wish it was better. You know, it's as an anime fan, you know, to see America do Ghost in the Shell this shitty, it's just a shitty situation for everybody. All right, so next up, something that people may not know about. I know most people probably aren't going to know about this, but Marvel's newest, I don't know if it's going to be a Netflix thing or a TV show, or if this is going to be like a web series. I'm not sure, but they're making a TV show, miniseries, whatever. Marvel is making a Cloak and Dagger, and I'm not sure how I feel about this on YouTube. Like, I know who Cloak and Dagger are, only because I grew up reading comic books, right? I grew up in reading comic books in the late 80s and in the 90s and coming into the thousands. And Cloak and Dagger, they're always been like the C team level people. They would always pop up in everybody else's books. But they're I don't even think if they had a solo book, now that I'm thinking about it. But if they did, it was never popular. So most people who probably watch Marvel's movies now, they're gonna not know who these people are. But basically, Marvel and Dagger is Marvel's, if you want to call them their interracial couple. But they're a black guy and a white chick. And the black guy, he has the ability to teleport. His name, Cloak, is weird because he has this big hooded cloak that he has. He's like, let's say, like, if you want to call him a being of darkness, that's how he looks, where he's just basically a floating cloak where his body is just like covered in blackness. And what he can do is he can suck in items or people into his cloak and teleport them to another area. So think of him like Nightcrawler in that aspect. He's a teleporter. His girlfriend, Tandy, she is, I don't know what you want to call her, but she has the ability to, it's something similar to Dazzler, but Dazzler, I think her mutant power is she can transfer sound to light, whereas with Tandy, I think she can make light-based constructs and fire like lasers and things like that. And it's like she uses light as her weapon. That's like her thing. And their powers are opposites of each other. You know, they play just like in their relationship, they play up the whole white and black thing, you know, and that's kind of how their powers are similar like that too. They're like opposites. And they're like the lovey-dovey teenage couple. I forget how they got their powers in comic book. I think somebody experimented on them, then they broke out, and they're not Street Fighters per se. So like, well, not Street Fighters, but I know they're not Street Fighters. They're not fighting Ryu or Ken no time soon. But they're not superheroes. That's the word I was looking for. They're not superheroes in a sense like Spider-Man, where they use their powers to go out and save people every day. That's not what they do. But they do help people or pop up from time to time to help other heroes or people, things like that, right? And Marvel, they just put out the trailer for it, and I just don't know how I feel about it. It looks incredibly young, like Marvel is making this for teenagers, and by being an adult man myself, I just don't know how this is gonna play in. I mean, it looks like something you would see on like WB. It doesn't look gritty. It doesn't look dark at all. And maybe that's the vibe they're going for, since the main characters are teenagers. So it's going to probably have a lot of teenage angst in it and things like that. And
I got you.
That's just not something that I'm into, because I'm an adult. And I'm not belittling teenagers or nothing like that. It's just I've always been one of those kind of people in real life who have been on the outside of all of that teenage bullshit. Like most people, when you talk to them, they'll tell you like, oh man, I'm not the same person I was when I was 15, or when I was coming up I was this way, but now that I'm adult, I'm another way. I'm not that person. I'm the same way I was when I was 15 and 16 in high school. I didn't have a lot of angst. I didn't go around beating people up or getting into fights, none of that bullshit. I didn't have a lot of relationship issues. I didn't have none of that teenage bullshit of going hating my parents, or treating my parents like shit because of something. It's just I didn't have none of that. So the only thing that's changed with myself coming up is like my maturity, my mentality, if you want to call it that, things like that, right? My manhood, so to speak. But with this here, I guess by them focusing on teenagers, I'm guessing they're gonna have a lot of teenage angst, because they shown like fighting and stuff like that. So I'm gonna guess, if it is like episodes, I don't know if it's gonna be like a full season of something, or maybe like a mini series type thing. I know the info saying is that it's gonna be on Freeform. I have no idea what the hell Freeform is, so I don't know. Let me see. An American-based cable satellite television channel. Okay, so it's like Disney's own, Disney got a television channel or something outside of Disney. But it's just one of those things where, by them having, powers as teenagers, I don't know how they're gonna play that into account. I doubt they're gonna be stopping bad guys, because that's never been Cloak and Dagger's thing. So it's kind of hard to place where the TV show or whatever this is going to line up, because I think, judging by the trailer, it looks like they're going to probably have a few episodes of them showing angst, being members of society. They're going to meet each other, love each other, fall in love, whatever you want to do. Then somebody's going to experiment, kidnap them, whatever. They're going to get their powers, and then maybe they have to go through a couple of episodes understanding what their powers are. Then they're probably gonna have like a breakup period where they're not gonna like each other or whatever, and then they're gonna probably come back together to fight whoever gave them powers, or whatever the bad guy threat, whatever, at the end, and I can bet you that's how it's probably gonna go. And it's just one of those things where it's like, I like what Marvel does, but this is one thing where it's like, I'm not sure if this is gonna kick off. It's very weird, because if they're doing this just for like this one television station, they're probably doing it as an experiment. Marvel and Disney, or Disney rather. Now I'm not even gonna say Marvel. Disney is making Marvel do all of their products. They're trying to cover all of their bases, so to speak, with a lot of their properties. TV shows, movies, comics, whatever, animations, right? And this feels like, okay, we got the older family audience that watches the movies. We got the adults that like the gritty stuff to watch the stuff on Netflix. And this feels like the TV show. Like, all right, we need something for preteens. Let's go. Let's get something out there. And they chose this. That's what this feels like. So I just don't know how it's gonna be. I'm guessing it looks like it's on a small budget, so you can cut out probably a lot of CG. And by them making it that, I'm not gonna call it shitty, but by them making it that shitty, it's just I don't know. It looks like right now from the trailer, it looks like a B-rate TV show about superheroes. And normally those kind of things don't go well. Like it reminds me a lot of like the older early 90s comic book movies. Like that old ass Fantastic Four movie that was just straight garbage. And I don't mean the ones they made in the thousands. They made one in like the early 90s and it was complete shit. Or like that 1990s Captain America movie. You know, it's like old comic book movies. They were just bad. YouTube outside of like the Incredible Hulk TV show, nah, they were bad. But that's what it's giving me, that kind of vibe, you know. But this feels like Disney putting something out there for preteens and teenagers who are into that teenager boy meets girl type angst type bullshit. And I guess by me being an adult who's about to hit what, 34, 35 now, it's just that just turns me off completely. So I'm gonna check it out because I watch all the Marvel stuff because I'm a fan of comics and all of that shit. I know who the characters are. So I'm gonna watch it regardless, but it's probably not gonna be on my top 10 list, not by far. So, but this is just the first trailer. Who knows? Things may go on. They might have 3 trailers out within a few months, and things may change, but I doubt it. All right, next up, and the final topic of the day. Thor fucking Ragnarok. They had the trailer come out and they fucking killed it. I'm just gonna say that. You know, Justice League came out with their trailer too, like, well, what was it, like a week or two before, and Thor came out and just shat all over it. But Thor's trailer looks pretty good. I mean, I will say this. I've been keeping abreast of like as far as the news of the movie and everything. And I liked the older Thor movies. I thought they were okay. They weren't my favorite of the MCU, but they weren't like my worst either. I think if I had to pick a worst one like that, it would probably be I would say Iron Man 2, but I would have to say Iron Man 3. Like, I loved Iron Man's probably like my favorite superhero. It used to be Spider-Man, but now it's Iron Man after that bullshit Marvel did with Spider-Man. But Iron Man 3, I really didn't like how they made the Mandarin, you know, out to be like some bullshit. And I understand why they did it, but it's one of those things where it's like, I think they should have, you know, stuck to their guns and just made the character who he was supposed to be. And so I would say that's probably my worst movie. Thor, almost tied to that would probably be Thor 2, Dark World. And it's one of those things where it could have been better than what it was, but it's just, I don't know if they didn't have a budget, but it just seemed kind of low rent, you know. Whereas this one, since you know, the second Avengers movie kicked off, this one, it looked like they got a bigger budget, you know, that CG's on point. It looks like it has a wackier tone, kind of like of how Guardians did. Although I recently read an article that said that that it didn't have a Guardians tone, so it's like maybe that's just how they cut the trailer. You know, it could have been that too, but even if it was, I think that's what worked for him. Like, you had a lot of weird, wacky stuff in this. You even had like the 80s style font, you know, from back in the day. You had Thor getting his hammer destroyed. You had a lot of iconic things to have, and this is a fucking teaser trailer. Like, this isn't like trailer number 3, the last one before the movie came out. No, this is like the first viewing of anything about it. But you had Thor, you know, hella destroying Thor's hammer. So just that alone, because Mjolnir has been so iconic in the movie so far as being like this one badass weapon that nobody can pick up besides those who are worthy of it, you know. to have the movie have the destruction of his hammer in it is like, oh shit. That kind of solidifies Hela's badassness, if you want to say that, you know. It makes her seem like a credible threat. And looks like they have the Valkyries in there too. You have a lot of sci-fi stuff, which I wasn't really I'm not opposed to that, but I wasn't expecting that either. They're basically like, instead of doing the Thor Ragnarok story from the comic books, it seems like they're doing a whole Ragnarok thing where Asgard gets destroyed, but then they're dumping Thor on this sci-fi war world type planet. And I'm guessing they're taking, it's not the same planet from the planet, what do they call it? I want to say Planet of the Hulks, but no, that's not it. The World War Hulk story. It's not the same planet as that, obviously, but it's like they're taking the whole gladiatory arena idea similar to that. And they also had the Hulk in, you know, in it, and they had the one scene where Hulk busted through the thing, and Thor was like, yes, he's a friend from work. And I was like, oh shit. Because it looks like, I don't know if they did it or not, but it kind of reminded me of that little sketch that I don't think Marvel did it, but it was like they had like a little joke sketch in there where not in the movie, but on YouTube, where Thor is roommating with this guy, and he's talking about, like, we need to pay these bills, and Thor's like, what are you talking about? I have a job. He was like, I saved the world, and he's being cocky as hell. So it would be cool, like, if they kind of slid that into the movies with like a reference or here, like here and there. And I'm guessing that's what that line was, where he was like, he's a friend from work. But the movie looks fun and entertaining. That's the most important thing. You're seeing a lot of weird, wacky, you know, Guardians type stuff, and you know, being the style of the movie, it seems like it's all over the place with its style and its tone, but it's it looks good. I mean, it looks good. It's wacky and different in that fun, entertaining kind of way. And that's what I think most people resonated with, is that if you make an entertaining movie, what Disney's known to do, like, you don't have to make it sad. It don't have to be, you know, super sad with people dying in it and stuff like that. I mean, I know you can do that, you know, and be good, but I think what people want is they want that family. They want to be entertained. I mean, that's what you're going to the movie to, you know, to get out of it at the end of the day. And I think that they can please more people with something like this than, let's say, a typical big bad guy pops up, Thor fights him. Like if Thor fought the Absorbing Man, you know, 90% of you guys probably don't even know who the hell I'm talking about. Or like if he fought the Wrecking Crew in his third movie, nobody would give two shits, because nobody know who those characters are. But you throw in Hulk in there, you have them fight each other, you introduce Thor into something that's completely, you know, not a part of his theme of movies, and now you make the movie interesting to bring in more people who wouldn't normally watch it. So I think it's a great. I think even the trailer now on YouTube has like, what, 33 million views. So I think it's probably gonna, honestly, I want to say it's gonna crush Justice League, but I'm gonna hold off on that until we see more Justice League stuff. Because Justice League, I don't know, I have a lot of mixed opinions about that too. But I was going to actually talk about that in this video here, but I already talked about that in a separate commentary. So maybe once we get more trailers about Thor and about Justice League, I'm going to try to keep this mini podcast thing going for maybe about once a week. So as we get more trailers and stuff go out there, I'll talk about them again, things like that. So anyways, guys, that's been the Lolly Lulelo podcast. I try to keep things a little bit more simple this time around, because I know the last one I rambled on a lot about a lot of different things, and this one I just wanted to make it more about 4 or 5 different things. And depending on how you guys like it, that's how I'm probably gonna do it. Don't know how I'm gonna upload this yet. I'm probably gonna upload it all in one piece when I do it, and then probably go back and chop out the different segments and then upload them separately as commentaries. I may do that too. For those of you who, let's say, missed the whole thing or can't sit through, I'm guessing it's probably been like an hour since I'm talking. But you know, for those of you who can't sit through the whole hour, I'm going to probably chop each segment up into pieces and distribute it throughout, you know, throughout this upcoming week. So I hope you guys have enjoyed me rambling on about different things. If you guys want to see me talk about anything specifically in future podcast episodes, let me know down in the comments. I try to read everything and comment on everything. I'm not one of those YouTubers who just basically ignore their audience. But my name is Denonu, the man with the biggest and the most blackest privilege on YouTube. And I will see you guys next week. Peace out.